Okay, I have to just convert them into what's it called? I have to convert them into videos. Right now they're on my computer. Okay. Did I start? I started recording or not? I did, right? Now the Gemara now is going to we ended off last time. Okay, it's very important to understand that the Brisa said you have to do a door that could stand in a regular wind, which means a shmira pchusa. Another way to say that is a minimum guarding. It's not the best. It's not super terrific. It's minimum. Okay, that's all you have to do. Okay, and if you do that, you are potter. Okay, good. We got that. Now, new topic. Not new topic, but let's start with this thing. Okay, when you have an animal. Okay, let's take a bull over here. Okay, there are different ways that a bull could damage you. Okay. It could do something called Karen, and Karen means acting violently. Okay, if an animal comes in, we call Karen means horn, but it means whenever an animal uses a horn to hurt you, it's because it's mad. It's doing something that's violent. If the animal kicks you because it's mad, it bites you because it's mad. That's Karen. Okay, something called Karen. Then we have something called Shane. Okay, Shane means eating. It means tooth. It means eating. If an animal damages something, not because it's mad, but because it wants to eat something. It could damage like that. It's not mad. If an animal gets into your backyard and starts eating everything up, he's not upset. He's being very destructive because he's eating. He's getting a lot of pleasure. He's enjoying himself. And he's damaging your stuff. That's another type of damage an animal could do. It means if an animal does any type of thing to let's say it rubs its back because it likes the way that your wall feels, and it rubs its back on your wall and it knocks over the wall, that would be shame. Okay? Which means it damaged by getting pleasure. Then there's a third way, and that is called regel. Regel is trampling or regular walking, okay? Because an animal could, when it walks in, it doesn't have to try to get any food, not getting any food. If you put a bull in this room, it will destroy the room. Not because it's mad, because it's not even mad. Not because it's hungry, it's nothing to eat here. It's going to knock over tables, it's going to start trampling on chairs, right? That thing's going to go over, the whole thing will be destroyed. And it didn't do anything, it didn't even try, right? Right? It didn't even try to do anything. That's called regel. Regel is trampling, or the normal way that it goes. You put a bull in your backyard, it might destroy your air conditioning. Just who knows what it'll do. Okay, so those are the three ways that an animal could do damage. Okay, now Karen, Shane, and regel. Okay, now Karen, which is acting violent for an ox, is not normal. Okay, it's not normal for it to act violently. Okay, we're not scared if you own an ox that's going to act violently. Okay? We're not scared it's going to act violently. They're usually very calm, eating grass and enjoying themselves. Okay? Now, Shane, okay, eating. Is it normal for an animal to damage with eating? So yes, that's normal. Regel, traveling, is it normal? Okay. So that means that if you have an animal, okay, you have an animal, you got to make sure it doesn't do normal things. You don't have to make sure it doesn't do not normal things. Normal things, you have to be, someone comes to you and say, Matthew, your animal ate all my stuff. You can't say, I didn't know it was going to do that. Because you're going to say, it's normal for it to do it. How can you not know? Of course it's going to do that, right? So those are normal. Normal things you are responsible for. Not normal things, you're not responsible for, or you're less responsible for, okay? So if your animal eats something, okay, you're going to be called a muad. Muad means it's normal, okay? If it tramples something, your animal is called a muad. Muad means it is expected and normal for it to do Shane and regel. Okay. Karen, goring. Is it normal for it to do that? Is it thing? So that's called a tam. Okay. Tam means innocent. Mud means it's likely going to do this. Tam means innocent. Okay. Fine. So if it gores once, the animal's a tam. You didn't know that. You can say, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I didn't know my animal was going to do that. And Bezin will say, you know what? He didn't know. Right? If you came into Bez and said, I didn't know my animal was going to trample all your stuff. Yeah? So what's Bez going to say? I mean, how could you not know? I mean, what do you think your animal's not a ballerina? Right? He's going to come in, he's going to smash everything. That's not an acceptable excuse. But when you say goring, we say it's a good excuse. One time, it's a good excuse. 2 times, good excuse. 3 times, still a good excuse. The 4th time already, we say that it's normal already. This animal now, it's normal for it to gore. Okay? And now it's a muad. You can't come into us and tell us you didn't know it was going to gore.
So if what's the difference if it's just going to break everything either way? What's the difference between goring and trampling?
Well, the question is, if you let your animal walk out on the street, okay? You let your animal walk out on the street, and and a guy comes in and says, your animal went and gored my car. It destroyed my car. It went mad, poked its horns in it, turned it over, gone. Yeah. So you could say, listen, my animal, that's not normal. That may for an animal do that. I watched it good enough for it not to do that, because putting it outside is basically there's no reason why I have to assume it's going to do that, and I'm putter. If you come to me and say, your animal is outside and it walked right into my backyard and demolished my whole entire yard, yeah, I can't say, well, I let it go outside and I didn't know it was going to go into your backyard. That you didn't watch it properly. Watching it, make sure it doesn't do shane and regel, doesn't eat and doesn't trample. If you watch it, it doesn't eat and doesn't trample, yeah, but it went and it gored and it destroyed something, you could say, I didn't know, okay, and that you'll get off easy on. If the guy comes in and says, your animal ate my stuff, then Bezdin's not going to let you off easy. But if your animal gored and acted violently, Bezdin will say, listen, you have to leave him alone. He didn't know his animal was going to do that. Okay? 3 times you get on that. 4th time already, don't come in and give us an excuse. Then already your animal is a muad. If you come in after 4 times and 3 times and say, I didn't know, the Bezdin will say, you knew. It did it 3 times already. Okay? So you knew that your animal does that. You have to make sure your animal doesn't go outside even and gore people, because you have to make sure your animal, I don't know what you're going to do, you have to make sure your animal is not, right? Okay? So that is when it comes to an ox, okay? It's Karen, Chen, Regel. Karen is not normal unless it does it 3 times, then it turns into a muad, and now it becomes normal. Shane and Regel, it's a muad right away. It's normal for it to eat and normal for it to trample the first second. Are we good with that? Okay. Now, our animal in our Mishnah was Hakoines Tzoin Ledir, right? Tzoin is what? A sheep, right? Now, sheep generally don't act violently, okay? So the sheep, when our Mishnah, when it says your sheep went and did damage, it's not talking about Karen, because sheep don't do Karen, okay? Sheep do Shane and Regel, that they do. They do that just fine. They don't act violently. Sheep are sheep. They just go around, they're fluffy, right? They're nice, they're friendly, yeah? They eat, and they maybe step on things, but they're not violent, okay? So when our Mishnah was talking about damage done by the sheep, what was it talking about? It was talking about Shane and Regel. It was not talking about goring, okay? And our Mishnah said that now, when it does Shane and Regel, Shane, again, we said, it is a muad right away from the beginning. Regel, a muad. You don't get 3 chances, right? Muad. And our Mishnah said, what type of watching do you have to do on this sheep, on this muad? It said you have to do a minimum shmirah, a minimum shmirah. So it means that you have an animal here that is a muad, which means it's likely to cause damage. How much do you have to watch your muad? A minimum watching, okay? The Gemara is going to say, you know what? That means that for Karen also minimum watching is good enough. All muads are the same. So Shane and Regel becomes a muad right away. Karen, acting violently, takes 3 times for it to become a muad. But once it becomes a muad, how much do you have to watch it? Minimum watching. Same way, these are muad right away, and you do minimum watching. So Karen also, even if it's after 3 times, if you have a bull that gored 3 times, and how much do you have to watch it now? How much do you have to watch it? A minimum watching. These were muad, and you only have to do a minimum watching. So when you have a bull that gored, also minimum watching. That's what muad. All muads are the same. The Gemara assumes. So if Shane and Regel muad minimum watching was good enough, so Karen, which is minimum watching, is good enough also. Okay, that's what the Gemara assumes. Is that good? Okay, the Gemara is going to know whose opinion is this, that muad is good enough with a minimum watching. That's what the Gemara is going to start off with now. Okay, and it's Amar Mani Bar Patish. Now, let me read it on here, and then we'll go back and we'll write in if you need to write in. Okay, so now, okay. Omar Ravmani Bar Patish. Ravmani Bar Patish said, Man, who is Tana, the Tana, who is the Tana in our Mishnah, right? Who taught muad, that for a muad, in our Mishnah, does the animal a muad? Yes, because our Mishnah animal is a sheep. And the sheep only does Shane and Regel. It doesn't gore. Shane and Regel, the animal is a muad from the beginning. It's a muad right away. You can't say I didn't know it was going to, right? And what did our Mishnah say? How much do you have to watch it? Minimum watching. So man Tana, who is the Tana in our Mishnah, who holds muad, that for muad, disagi, that it is enough, lay, for it, means to guard it, v'shmira pchusa. Who is it enough? Who is the Tana in our Mishnah holds that a muad is good enough with a minimum watching, right? In our Mishnah, we said that a muad is good enough with a minimum watching. Who is the Tana that holds this, okay? Good. Let me put this on pause for a second. Okay. And the Gemara now continues and says, Rav Yehuda, that our Mishnah is Rav Yehuda, okay? Ditnan, for it was taught in a Mishnah about an ox, okay? Kishore Bailav, if its owner tied it up, okay? Kishore means tied it up, Balav, its owner. In English, its owner tied it up, okay? B'moiseira, with a rope, V'noal lefonav karoi, or he locked the door in front of it properly. So a guy has a ox, and he tied it up, or he locked it up properly, so it's the minimum shmira, he did a minimum watching, v'yotza v'hizik, and an animal got out and caused damage. Okay, so we have now an ox who did a minimum watching on, and it got out and caused damage. What's the halacha? So the Gemara says like this, okay, echad tam, whether the ox was a tam, which means it didn't gore yet 3 times, v'echad muad, or whether his ox was a muad, chayav, he is chayav, divrei Rebbe Meir. These are the words of Rebbe Meir. Let's get this straight over here. There's a lot I just said, and I want to just make it clear over here, okay? We have over here an ox, okay? An ox, you did a minimum shmira, okay? You didn't do the best, minimum shmira, okay? The ox got out and caused damage, okay? In our Mishnah, sheep did a minimum shmira, it went out and caused damage. What's the halacha in our Mishnah? If you have a sheep, you did a minimum watching, you watch it properly, and it went out and caused damage. What's the halacha in our Mishnah? You're potter. In this case, ox, minimum watching, and it went out and it did damage. What's the halacha? So Reb Meir says, if it's a tam, means it did not yet gore 3 times, you're chayiv. And if it's a muad, you're chayiv. Is that the opinion in our Mishnah? That's not our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said if you have an animal that you guard with a minimum watching, and it gets out, even if it's a muad, you are potter, right? Our Mishnah is a muad. Our Mishnah is a sheep. Sheep is always a muad, right? Because sheep only eats the shein and regal. Shein and regal is always a muad. Our Mishnah said a sheep that is a muad, all you have to do is minimum watching, and then you are potter, okay? So this animal over here is an ox, minimum watching, muad, chayiv. That's not our Mishnah, okay? Let's continue. Rabbi Yehuda says, tam chayiv, for a tam, he is chayiv, muad potter. For a muad, he is potter. It means, back to our thing over here. Rabbi Yehuda says, ox, minimum watching. For a tam, you're chayiv. For a muad, you're potter. This really makes no sense, because you should, if tam means it didn't do it yet 3 times, it says your shmir pchusa is not good enough, but for a muad, it did it already 3 times, shmir pchusa is good enough. That does not make sense, really, but that's what he holds, okay? He learns it out of psukim, and that's what he holds. But in our Mishnah, the animal is a muad, right? If you locked it up properly, minimum watching, and it gets out, you are potter. In this case, ox, shmir pchusa, did a minimum watching, and it's a muad, minimum watching, ox, it gets out, you are potter. Whose opinion is our Mishnah? It's Rabbi Yehuda. You see that? Rabbi Yehuda holds that for a muad, you are potter. He says, muad, you're potter. If you minimum watching, muad, potter. That must be our Mishnah's Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? The Gemara now will continue. Shenemar, as it says, v'lo yishmerenu bailav, and its owner did not watch it, which is over here, again, I'm breaking this down. V'lo yanat yishmerenu, watch it bailav. Okay? And not watch it its owner, which in English means, and its owner didn't watch it. Okay? So the pasuk says, v'lo yishmerenu bailav, and its owner didn't watch it. V'shomer huzeh, and this, v'shomer means, and watched huzeh, this one. Yeah? And watched this one, which in English means, and this one was watched. Okay? So, v'shomer huzeh, and this ox was watched. So, Rabbi Yehuda holds that as long as you watched it, even a minimum watching, you're going to be potter. Okay? One last opinion, and then we're going to explain this. Rav Eliezer says, Ein lo shmira, it has no watching, ella, only sakin, a knife. The only way you can watch your animal is kill it. If your animal's in the freezer, it's watched. Okay? If it's not in the freezer yet, you're going to be chayiv for everything. Okay, so Rabbi Eliezer holds that you have to watch it. Okay, with a knife. That's how you kill it. Otherwise, don't come to me with any complaints that you couldn't that your animal damaged. So these are the three opinions. Okay, Rav Meir holds that you're always chayiv. Rav Yehuda holds for a muad you're potter, and Rav Eliezer holds for a muad you have to kill it. You got to kill it. Okay. So now back to our case. Okay, we want to say right now that our Mishnah said that a sheep that has shein and regel, which are muad, minimum watching, potter. That's what our Mishnah said, right? Right? And we're assuming now Karen, which is a muad, right? Minimum watching is going to be potter, right? Whose opinion is that? Let's see. Minimum watching, muad, right? Potter. Whose opinion is that? Rabbi Yehuda. You see that? Our Mishnah said the same thing our Mishnah said. Our Mishnah said, look at this. Our Mishnah said, minimum watching on a muad of shein and regel and Karen, right, is potter. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so we're going to say like this, basically, the same way a shmir pchusa. If you have an animal that's a muad, whether it's shein regel or Karen, if you do a minimum watching, you're potter. That seems to be the opinion of our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said sheep because it's telling us sheep is always a muad, right? Our Mishnah didn't want to say cow because cow is not always a muad. So cow can sometimes be a muad, sometimes not be a muad. So it said sheep. Sheep is always a muad. Why? Because sheep always do shein and regel. Shein and regel, an animal is always a muad. And our Mishnah said that for a muad, it's good enough to do a minimum watching. So we see now, minimum watching is good enough for a muad, whatever type of muad you have, shein, regel, karen, anything. Muad is good enough. Who's opinion that? That's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says for minimum watching, for a muad, you're potter, Rabbi Yehuda. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Not Rav Meir. Rav Meir holds for minimum watching, for muad, you're chayiv. He holds for minimum watching, you have to kill it. The only one holds potter is that is Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? So we see from here that he holds that a shmira, pchusa, is good enough for a muad, is Rabbi Yehuda. This is as far as we're going to be able to go today. This is